Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey, chapter 263. It is the second day of the week, aka the special beam cannon workout. I am feeling pretty good. I am actually feeling better than good, so I'm very happy about that. But anyways, to the main subject matter for today. Festivals. So the main reason why I wanted to talk about this was because of twofold. One, as a suggestion from my brother, so shout out Nelson for that one. But two, it is because I had just finished watching some live performances at Coachella this past weekend on YouTube, because I don't want to go to that. And also I love making fun of a bunch of bands. But anyways, that is what got me inspired to make this as a video for today. So I wanted to just talk about the festival experience, what it's become, the mixed bag of how I feel about it. Some things that are cool, some things that are not as cool. Watching these things live, all the other things that might go in between, the exorbitant prices to go do stuff like this, and all the other things like that. I just wanted to go over and talk about it. Maybe also sprinkle in some of my personal experiences at some of these types of things. I went to a couple, I think, technically. Yes, I've gone to two, technically. But we'll talk about those when we get there. But I just wanted to say this before I start, basically. This is truly a mixed bag of how I feel about these types of festivals. I don't love them. I also don't hate them as much as I would think I do. I don't necessarily hate all of them, but I don't necessarily like any of them. It's weird. It's like a very mixed emotion. I don't know how else to explain it. But I think of I guess in this episode, we're just going to look at the good sides and the bad sides. I mean, there are a lot of bad sides, but the occasional good sides, I'm not going to say that it's all bullshit, but most of the time when it comes to the headline market ones, aka your EDC, your Coachella, your whatever the fuck else is the next one that has a name that is the name itself and not the actual who's playing part of it. When we were young, but we'll talk about that one in particular in a bit. Those are very interesting to me. That I don't like the idea of them in the sense that they are more about the event itself rather than the people that are going, like the artists that are playing. So they are secondary, because I feel like most of the time the artist should be first in line. It's kind of like Ozfest in a way, because if you go to Ozfest and like Ozzy Osbourne isn't playing, it's kind of weird. Or vice versa is not Fest. If Slipknot's not playing, something's up. Like it's like there are levels to it in that sense, that you're going to go to something and expect a certain thing. And I'd rather it be a band rather than the event itself be the thing. Although there are some exceptions, of course, and there were some that went like this, and we'll talk about one of those. But I'm just personally more interested in things where the particular band is put on a pedestal or whatever, rather than the event itself, if that makes any sense. That's just how I feel about it personally. But that's one aspect of it. That's not even all of it. I just think that a lot of people like to think of it as the event and not really the music, really. They're just kind of becoming drones for whatever is being spoon-fed to them. But we'll get into details and all that other stuff and the satanic rituals that probably happen in the background. But we'll talk about that later, because we can't have that too early in the video. But anyways, we'll get more about that when we go to Mother Base.
All right, so we started this day with squats, which were pretty good. But anyways, back to the main subject matter at hand. Festivals. In general, festivals are a mixed bag for me. I personally don't love them, but I don't hate them. It all just depends. In recent times, there was Coachella when this video was made or filmed. And then in between that, there was also EDC Las Vegas that happened, which was another big-ass festival, which has its own problems. But it's another story for a different day. Generally speaking, I think most people find the festival experience a mixed bag within itself, really. It's not necessarily something that is always great either way. I know of horror stories from people who are there, but then you get the good stories that kind of weigh it out. It's like you hear the good parts and the bad parts when hearing these things. And of course, that's not even talking about the failed festivals that have happened before, like Fyre Fest and things like that. We're not discussing those because that's kind of a different episode in its own right. This is more just festivals in general. Personally, one of the biggest gripes I would have to have with these festivals nowadays, particularly, is that they are reliance on the name itself, EDC, Coachella, the headliners are basically next to nothing. They don't matter nearly as much as the actual saying you're going to the festival itself in comparison, which I find kind of, that's just not my thing. It's kind of like a designer brand for a festival, if that makes any sense. Just doesn't seem that right for me. That, and also the amount of money that is used just to get into these things are quite literally ridiculous and ludicrous. And the fact that you can pay for it later just means that more people are going to be suckered into getting into debt for a concert that lasts 3 days where they were half dehydrated and or on some drugs that they don't even know what exactly were in it. So there is that. Now, the good parts about it is that sometimes there are festivals with people that you want to see. There are things that are just actually genuinely, you want to check out this band. The only issue is that sometimes those bands and or groups or artists are just kind of past their prime. So you're just watching a ghost of a former good band or good artist. So it's not nearly as fun. But there are times where they do put on a show. You know, I got to give props to Lady Gaga. I watched some of her set in Coachella, and it was a thing. It was genuinely like an actual like movie, basically. There's a bunch of props, bunch of sets, bunch of shit going on. So good job on her. Like that's the cool part about going to a festival at the end of the day, really. It's like seeing the spectacle of things. But even then, seeing the spectacle isn't always necessarily good because maybe they're doing some rituals in the background that you don't even know about, but that's a different story for a different day. Personally, I've been to 2 festivals on my own. I've been to one called the Virgin Free Fest, where you could get tickets for free. I remember that. That was a very, very great time. Took forever to get tickets and also took forever to get inside, but got in, and it was a good time. Went with my friend Henry. Another one was Warped Tour, 2004 or 3, one of the two. It was very, very, very much a long time ago. And from what I can tell you, we left at the perfect time because it was literally about to rain right when we were about to leave, or right when we left. So that was a good time. But still, that was one experience that I will never forget. And those were good times, but they also had some drawbacks, but also they were a one-day thing. They weren't a 3-day event weekend type of deal, which I have yet to be to one of those. They don't necessarily interest me nowadays. Not to say that I wouldn't go to one, but I'm just not. I would probably go to a day, experience it, and move on. I think that looking at it from the just general, what am I doing with a day type of deal? Nothing really interests me, except for maybe like one of those, like when we were young style festivals where it's a bunch of bands playing their old albums. That is interesting to me. But also the $600 price tag and going all the way to Las Vegas is just not appealing to me at all, obviously. That part is not the good part for me personally. I would not do that. But I wouldn't necessarily be closed-minded to going to any of these things, but I wouldn't want to pay for it. So unless it's free, I'm not going to any of them. But I'm not going to disparage people who want to go to these things because generally they could see somebody that they actually want to see. I'm not going to be pissy about that. It's just an interesting mixed bag because you just hear so many things that happen at these places and events that you can never really judge it really thoroughly per se, just because you never really know if it's going to go well or go terribly. I mean, you don't have to go far to look at people who literally died at one of these things. So it's really just depends. But overall, as long as you're not getting into a death ritual, I think you're all right for the most part.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed, none. Exercises skipped, also none. Got everything in, thankfully. But anyways, to the main subject matter, festivals and the mixed bag that they are. I don't necessarily like them, but I don't hate them. Do I like the people that are the clientele? Not necessarily, but that's a whole other subject in a way. I think this entire idea of these entire festivals, particularly ones that last 3 to 4 days, are just kind of strange to me. It's a weird orgy of things that are happening all at once. I feel like they can be cool if you experience them once in your life at least, but after that, it's not necessarily that much of a pressing matter to go to it again and again and again. Like some people make it a religious type of thing, but that's a whole other subject because we'll get into that eventually. And speaking about religious things, I was joking earlier about the whole stage summoning Moloch, all of these demon-like things. That is a whole other episode too. We'll talk about that. I don't want to talk about it in this one because that is a whole other subject. But I'll just say that maybe there's some actual truth to that, but who knows? I'm maybe looking too deep into it, but it just looks kind of fishy from my end. But anyways, I think these things are just whatever. I'm personally not a fan of watching acts that are past their prime and just reliving it over and over again. I feel bad for some of them playing the same songs since 1992 or 4. I mean, come on. As well as like the decline of certain voices where you're just like, dude, just stop. It's kind of like in The Simpsons where you hear Marge's voice now, where you're like, okay, I know you don't want to do AI, but my God, please just hire somebody else, like where you just want them to like stop for their sake in a sympathetic way, not in a like, oh, you suck. It's more of a like, just we enjoyed what you did. Just leave it alone. All right. I think I've heard the Taking Back Sunday singer. It was like that his voice is just not good anymore. So that's just a little bit of, that's more of a sad thing than anything, and more of a idea of those who have passed their prime. Or if you're watching Coachella live on YouTube, you'll see that 90% of them are lip syncing, which is always fun, which is actually very astonishing, which I got to give Lady Gaga props on. She wasn't lip syncing for the most part. So I got to give her the props on that. She was legitimately singing. So kudos to her, because a lot of these people were lip syncing, which I understand. I get it. It's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but also most people are coming to see you perform live. Like I don't care if it's not 100%. I'd rather it be 80% of their way there rather than 100% there and you're just lip syncing along with it. I'll give even Green Day that when I watched them in there, they were actually singing. So it was something, but also I was like, okay, at least they are doing what they're supposed to do. I have a slight judgment against those who are lip syncing. I understand there are obviously conditions that won't allow certain things like that, but also at the same time, you are emceeing your own songs, so it kind of defeats the entire purpose of people going to see you live. You know what I mean? So, I get it, but I also don't get it. And also the show aspect of it, but that's hopefully I talked about in the voiceover. There you go. Generally speaking, very mixed bag. I don't know how to feel about it, but I'll say I've probably already complained about a few things. I already gave my piece about certain things. I think it's cool if you want to go, but it's not something that you should make a religious reoccurrence every year type deal. I feel like if you start to do something like that, you should probably ask yourself why you're doing it repeatedly over and over again. And we'll talk about that in a different experience or a different episode, because there are certain Mecca-like treks that people do in replacement, but we'll talk about that later. But anyways, with that being said, tell me what you think in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one. This one was a random one, but makes kind of sense with what's happening around the world. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Stay safe out there. Stay warm. Keep it heavy. I'll see you in the next one. And take care. Peace!